Very good evening. You're watching 7 at 7. I'm Chaiti Narula with all the top stories this evening. On to our top story this evening. The countdown has begun to Prime Minister Modi's Howdy Modi event in Texas. Prime Minister Modi has now asked Indians to share their ideas for his address at the Howdy Modi event, in which 50,000 Indian Americans will be present. The Prime Minister has sought recommendations on his Namo apps on what issues he should touch upon in his address in Houston. US President Donald Trump will join Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Howdy Modi event at the sprawling NRG Stadium in Texas. This is the largest gathering of approximately 50,000 Indian Americans together. The earlier two gatherings were approximately consisting of 20,000 people. This, according to the organizers, will be the largest gathering for any foreign dignitary in the US after the Pope.
So I'll see Prime Minister Modi, and I will be meeting with India and Pakistan. And I think a lot of progress has been made there. A lot of progress.
I think it is a matter of great honor that he has chosen to come there to accept the invitation from the community to be there. And obviously we would welcome President Trump in the warmest possible manner. My sense is it's not just Pakistan. I think whole world will be watching the Houston event and take lessons from there about what Indian Americans have achieved, what India and the United States, the state of the relationship today. So I think there are multiple messages there. I mean, obviously it's for the Pakistanis to read what they wish to into it, and I would say the same applies to other people in the world as well.
Gaurav now joins us for the very latest. He's got a special guest with him as well on Howdy Modi discussing this. I'm throwing over straight across to Senior Executive Editor India Today, Gaurav Sawant. Over to you, Gaurav.
All eyes now on Howdy Modi, and I quickly want to cut across to the United States of America and welcome on the show Nisha Desai Biswal, President of the US-India Business Council, former US Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia. Ms. Biswal, welcome on India Today. What do you make of Howdy Modi, the event at Houston?
Well, I think that one of the things that makes the U.S.-India relationship so unique and so special is the fact that it is anchored in shared values, shared goals and objectives, and really anchored in the long-standing and strong support of the Indian American diaspora community here in the United States, which has over the past several decades worked very hard to strengthen and deepen U.S.-India ties. I think the Prime Minister addressing this gathering in Houston, Texas, is an indication of how broad-based the support for U.S.-India ties is here in the United States.
The fact that the U.S. President Donald Trump will also be there, would this be just optics, or do you see this as far beyond optics and something substantial when it comes to US-India relations, strategic relations, trade relations, relations that are now expanding to various fields, ma'am?
Look, I have felt that the U.S.-India relationship over the last couple of decades has been on a strong and steep upward trajectory. We clearly have a partnership between the United States and India that is rooted in very strong sense of the direction that we want to see not only our two countries and our bilateral relationship, but really how we look at the world, how we look at a global environment that is rules-based, that is inclusive, and that is founded in a shared goal to advance democratic ideals as well. For the U.S. and India, that means that not only do we have a very strong and deep strategic partnership and security partnership, but we also have a very deep economic partnership, and one that is growing stronger by the year. And I think that this event is really aimed at showing that this is a comprehensive partnership between our two countries, our two governments, and our two peoples.
Within our country, of course, there is some politics that seem, opposition leaders seem to say that one, this is just optics. Two, US expects India to play a secondary role. Three, on issues of national security, US tells India, do not buy the S-400s from Russia, or do not buy oil from Iran, or India is sidelined from when negotiations are happening on Afghanistan. Since you've been US Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, how would you respond to some of this criticism, ma'am?
Well, first of all, I'm going to speak primarily from the perspective of the U.S.-India Business Council. But what I'll say in response to your question, Gaurav, is that the U.S. and India have deep respect for the fact that while we have very strong and convergent goals as we look to the future, that we have historical ties and relationships that each are going to want to manage. And so neither does the U.S. expect India to be a carbon copy and validator of all of its goals and objectives, nor does India expect that the U.S. will agree with it on every position that it has or every relationship that it has. Those are things that will get negotiated and navigated by the two governments. I think what is important is that both governments at the highest level, as well as throughout every aspect of government establishment, are committed to continuing to deepen and strengthen that relationship. That is what I worked towards when I was in government, and I know that colleagues who are in government today, both in India and in the U.S., are very focused on that as well.
Because there are also those who say that trade issues between India and the US, it's far beyond niggles at this stage. And do you expect, when President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi meet, there will be perhaps some way to break that ice or to break that logjam and move forward?
Well, I think that U.S. and Indian trade negotiators are working very hard to make that happen. I know that the Commerce Minister and the U.S. Trade Representative, Ambassador Lighthizer, have been in a fairly frequent set of talks over the last couple of weeks. And I do think that there's a great deal of desire on both sides to be able to close the gap and have something significant that can be announced. I think it's going to require some compromises on both sides. And I think my sense is that now is the time for those compromises to be made in service of a larger, more important economic and strategic partnership between our two countries.
So if we were to talk in tangible terms, or would that be, something like India gets more oil and gas from the US, lower taxes on perhaps motorcycles or dairy products or mobile phones? Is that what we are looking at, ma'am?
I'm sure all of those issues are in the mix, and I'm sure that there are a few others as well. Listen, I think trade talks are best conducted between the negotiators and in private to allow both sides to be able to come forward with the negotiated compromises that they need to. And so my sense is that there's a very strong momentum to try to get something significant done and announced for when the two leaders meet. And I hope and expect that that will be the outcome.
Because with the US President Donald Trump going in for re-elections in 2020, he would expect some give from India on some of these things. But what is it that the US would expect from India in your appreciation, ma'am?
Well, look, I think we have always said as an industry body that has both Indian and U.S. companies, what we have always said is that when we reduce the barriers to investment for each other's industry into our own societies, that's when trade flourishes. India is in search of significant growth in FDI to be able to fuel its economy and its infrastructure and its growth trajectory. And the U.S. is the largest source of FDI in the world, but the U.S. industry wants to make sure that they have a level playing field. They want to make sure that there is regulatory and policy stability. And they want to make sure that they have access to India's markets and have, the ability to import as they try to build some of a supply chain ecosystem in India. I think for India, it needs to be confident in playing to a global economy and not just in protecting a domestic economy and a domestic market. India is one of the fast-rising large economies in the world today, and India has much of its growth ahead of it. So I think that there's a win-win on the table for both countries.
And when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump are on the stage together at Houston, Texas, at the NRG Stadium, in your appreciation, what's the message that's going out to the world at large, ma'am?
Well, I think that Prime Minister Modi, having been elected to a 5-year term with a resounding mandate, represents a opportunity for strong, stable, and bold leadership in India during a world that has a great deal of uncertainty, particularly on the trade and economic front. And if the Prime Minister can convey that message, that indeed India is open for business, open for investment, that he is committed to reforms, and that there will be a predictable direction for India and for India's growth. I think that at this point, the world is watching very closely, and I know that U.S. industry and U.S. investors are watching very closely, and I think that that'll be a powerful message, and it'll allow the deep strategic ties between our two countries and people-to-people ties between our two countries to also be complemented by deepening economic ties as well.
Okay, because the US President believes in America first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi believes in India first. Will they be able to find middle ground at Houston or later in New York?
In a world in which supply chains are truly global, an America first and an India, make in India are not contradictory. They can very easily be complementary, and I do believe that there's a very strong win-win proposition on the table. The U.S. is welcoming more and more Indian investment into the U.S. Indian companies are making strong gains and creating very important investments in the U.S. and likewise. So I really don't see this as being in contradiction, but rather as a complementary approach that can help strengthen both economies and create opportunities for both people.
Nisha Desai Biswal, for the moment, many thanks for joining me here on India Today. Look forward to meeting you in the United States of America. For the moment, many thanks.
Ed Gaurav, thank you so much right there for getting us that exclusive interview right there. Howdy Modi countdown indeed seems to have begun. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Sardar Sarovar Dam in Gujarat to celebrate his 69th birthday. He reviewed several development projects and launched Narmada Mahotsav as well. And other official engagements, Prime Minister Modi did pay a customary birthday visit to his mother. It was a very heartwarming one. We all saw those visuals that were coming in, heartwarming visuals coming in there from Gandhinagar as well, where he had Maa ke haath ka khana. Here's a report coming in.
PM Modi turned 69 on Tuesday, marking the day with a trip to home state of Gujarat. Narmada district's Kevadia town was the stage for the grand celebrations and events, with Sardar Patel's magnificent and towering Statue of Unity in the backdrop. First came a visit to the Sardar Sarovar Dam, which he inaugurated in 2017. Modi reviewed several eco-tourism projects ranging from river rafting to wildlife safari. Soon it was time to perform the Narmada Aarti at the dam site. A ritual to welcome water of the auspicious river, considered lifeline of Gujarat. The PM then kicked off the Namami Narmade Mahotsav to celebrate the dam reaching its water level milestone and lavished praise on the locals.
पर्यावरण को संरक्षित करते हुए कैसे विकास किया जा सकता है, इसका जीवंत उदाहरण अब केवड़िया में देखने को मिल रहा है.
Referring to the Sardar Sarovar Dam and Statue of Unity, Prime Minister invoked Sardar Patel.
सरदार पटेल ने जो सपना देखा था वो दशकों बाद पूरा हो रहा है और वो भी सरदार साहब की भव्य प्रतिमा के उन आंखों के सामने हो रहा है.
After official engagements, Modi paid a customary birthday visit to his 99-year-old mother, Hiraba, in Gandhinagar. Enjoying a special meal cooked by the doting mother and taking her blessings after sharing some emotional moments in her company. With Kamlesh Sutar in Kevadia, Bureau Report, India Today.
Senior Congress leader Digvijay Singh has sparked a fresh controversy addressing an event with Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Kamal Nath in Bhopal. Digvijay Singh gave a communal twist to rape. He said that people wearing saffron robes are committing rapes in temples. He went on to say that people wearing saffron are doing pity business and even God will not spare the people who are defaming Sanatan Dharam. This is not the first time that Digvijay Singh has made a controversial statement. Earlier, he has said that RSS has been spreading terrorism and also said that Hindu terrorists are linked to RSS. Moving on to the other big story that we're tracking right here, and it's a very, very interesting one. Hollywood superstar Brad Pitt spoke to a NASA astronaut on board International Space Station. During the conversation about the life at the International Space Station, Brad Pitt asked astronaut Nick Hague if he saw the landing of Chandrayaan-2 lander Vikram on the surface of the moon. Let's listen in to a slice of that conversation between the Hollywood actor and the astronaut, which has now gone viral.
I got to go to JPL last week, and it was on the day when India was landing on the moon, and the United States were assisting them in that effort. Could you see that from where you are?
No, unfortunately. So I along with the rest of the crew just had to follow along with the news reports, and it's one of those things where international cooperation is so important, because a saying we've got up here is space is hard. Things that should be easy, when you try to do them in space, they just get harder. And the things that we're trying to do every day, the team on the ground, NASA and its international partners, do a great job of making really hard, almost impossible things look routine. And it's one of those things where you can get some complacency, but the things that we're able to achieve together it's something special. For me, that is the biggest thing that I've pulled from this mission, is that idea of cooperation at a global scale is what's going to propel humanity into the future.
I got to see a little of that. They were working on the new rover that's going to go to Mars, and it was an international effort, which was really impressive to see everyone working together to build different components to this rover.
That's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula, on 7 at 7. Up next is our special show in depth on Prime Minister Modi's different avatars. Stay tuned.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.